Mission Control, this is Discovery. We have a problem.
What is it, my droog? Are you out of eggy eggs? Or do you have a pain in your gulliver?
I didn't copy that, Control. Say again?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I don't know of any Commander Spartacus. Who's in charge?
What is your major malfunction?
Finally. Mission Control, we have a major situation here.
Okay, first, what's the password?
The password is Fidelio.
It's the RMT 1-year anniversary special. Starring Shannon, Tommy, and special guest Ibu. The RMT 1-year anniversary special.
Hello and welcome to Random Movie Time! So, we have been doing this channel for a year now, so we thought for our 1-year anniversary we would do something special, and that being Tommy and I each choose one of our favorite directors and talk about why we chose him and what we like about that director, and choose one film to discuss for the review. So Tommy's choice was Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick, as most of you know, I'm sure, has a number of interesting films under his belt, spanning a variety of types of films. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Full Metal Jacket, Dr. Strangelove, and of course the last film he directed was Eyes Wide Shut. So Stanley Kubrick, straight out of high school, started as a photographer. However, he was very interested in filmmaking as well, and so right out of high school he got a job as a photographer for Look magazine in the 40s. However, he did on shoestring budgets, did everything he could to make little short films, and he started out right out of high school, DIY. He didn't have any formal training, and that's pretty impressive. So Tommy, tell us, why did you choose Stanley Kubrick?
Well, he's always been one of my favorites. He has an impressive sort of signature visual look, and he's one of those meticulous directors who has to make sure everything looks right. Famously, he'll do many takes, but his argument has always been, we've built the sets, we've got the costumes, we've got the makeup. Why not exploit it as much as possible and just keep working until we've really got something right, And I think he's right, Sometimes Hollywood, they think time is money, but if you can really concentrate and make your film, as good as it can possibly be, then I think you're going to end up with a real classic. And that's what he usually does. So for the movie I picked for this week, it was Lolita. And that was his 1962 movie. It was written by Vladimir Nabokov, based on his book. Just like and it stars James Mason, Sue Lyon, Shelley Winters, and Peter Sellers. So this tells the story of a middle-aged man who moves into a rooming house in Maine, but he almost immediately falls for the landlady's much younger daughter, who's just a teenager. And of course, a lot of crazy hijinks ensue, as you can imagine. This was kind of a dark movie. Almost all of his movies have sort of a thread of dark humor through them, except maybe 2001, but almost all of his movies, that seems to be the real connective tissue. this was a movie which I thought I knew what it was going in, because I'd seen a movie in the 90s called The Crush with Carrie Elways and Alicia Silverstone, I believe. And I had understood that that was a remake of Lolita, but actually that was just sort of inspired by. That was more of a straight up, what would you call it? Sort of an erotic thriller like Fatal Attraction. Whereas this is more like, I don't know, a twisted romance or something. That movie had the same basic setup where, you know, the adult man gets involved with this teenage girl, but other than that, it was completely different. So this story really shocked me. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, good solid movie, good performances. It doesn't exactly look like Kubrick's signature style. I think his real signature visual style that we all know started maybe with 2001, and then when you see movies like Clockwork Orange and The Shining that came after that, Eyes Wide Shut, then you can sort of get an idea of his visual style. This movie, except for that scene where the girl is in a play, which sort of becomes a little bit more surreal, the movie sort of looks a little bit more pedestrian than some of his other better known movies. But still, a very entertaining movie. We didn't know where the story was going to go. Everybody in the movie is crazy, not just the main character. And Peter Sellers, I didn't even know Peter Sellers was in this. He was, of course, in Doctor Strangelove, which I had seen, but I didn't even know he was a character in this, and playing a very twisted character too. Maybe not as twisted as the main character, because, you know, he doesn't actually try and kill somebody, but pretty close. Anyway, what did you think of this movie, Shannon?
Well, it's nothing if not interesting. Like, my first thought after the last scene, and first thing I said was, wow, because there's a lot to unpack there. Talking about Kubrick's style, yeah, it's not fully formed yet. And yeah, there is certainly a thread of dark humor through this. I would say it's very sardonic. None of the characters are very redeemable. The main character, he's a professor, and he kind of takes advantage of his situation, and I've always wanted to see this film, actually. It's always cited as one to see in the classics, and I'm really glad I got a chance to see it. Speaking to Kubrick's style, you can see one thing that I always thought that was pretty notable about his style was the way he contrasts things in his films, whether it be through color. You see that a lot in 2001: A Space Odyssey. The colors are part of the scenery, as well as in A Clockwork Orange. But you also see this in Lolita. You see the contrast in shadow. Lolita's in black and white, but it's still present, that idea, and that's really amazing, the way he used lights and shadows. And in fact, the first scene after the establishing shot, when the main character goes into the screenwriter's or the playwright's mansion, the playwright is played by Peter Sellers. It really made me think of Orson Welles, that style. So I can't help but wonder if Kubrick was very influenced by Orson Welles. I mean, that wouldn't be a surprise. He was a teenager in the 40s, in the early 40s, a young adult in the early 40s and 50s, so that wouldn't surprise me at all that helped inform his filmmaking style. So so those are some things I noticed about the style. And I agree with you. It's not, unless you really, really kind of look deep into it, it doesn't look like Kubrick. But you can kind of see how he's starting to develop as a filmmaker. It is a very, I think his first big film was in 1950 or something like that. So it took him a while to get to this point, but yeah, it's really good. As for the movie itself, wow, like, the acting is great. The characters are all despicable. You don't like any of them. But that doesn't matter because of this, the way the story goes. I mean, usually I say that if you don't like the characters, it's not going to be it's not going to be a great film. But I mean, in this case, you really can't believe what these people are doing, but it's kind of like, it makes your stomach turn, but you can't look away. And then those unbelievable bits of sardonic humor in there. You're like, wow, these people are awful. So with the exception of some of the bystanders that come around and for short periods of time, but first of all, I can't believe this middle-aged man is taking advantage of this 17-year-old girl, or I think she was 16 or 17. And then I can't believe that this 17-year-old girl was playing him. But in turn, this professor, this man, middle-aged man, was like, married this woman he loathed, the mother of Lolita, so he could be close to her. Like, it's so fucked up. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's kind of hard to watch sometimes, but wow, what a brilliant film, really. What about you, Tommy? Do you have anything to add?
No, it was a brilliant film, and one of the few Kubrick movies which we hadn't seen yet. I think we haven't seen... Oh, you've seen Barry Lyndon. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And then he did 2 other black and white movies besides Dr. Strangelove, which I think are The Killers and...
Yeah. That was his first movie, I think. Killers.
Yeah. And The Killer's Kiss. Another one. But yeah, pretty much all caught up on our Kubrick, but I can't wait to see Barry Lyndon one day. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I thought was really funny was when they were at that summer dance. And it just made me think of those like old 50s etiquette videos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, now girls, you have to remember to behave and blah, blah, blah. It was really funny. And, and I was going to mention Peter Sellers because I'm only used to seeing Peter Sellers in these goofy roles, right? And I was blown away by him in this film. Like, wow, he's got some acting chops, that guy. It's really good. Well, Tommy, how many bottles of nail polish do you give this film?
I'll give it 5 out of 5. Yeah, it's not the most comfortable movie to watch, but it is brilliant, so you have to acknowledge that. So yeah, I'll give it 5 bottles of nail polish out of 5. What about you, Shannon?
Yeah, 5 out of 5, absolutely. What a great character study, and the humor is so sardonic and subtle, and it's just, it just makes you cringe, but very well done. And Stanley Kubrick, brilliant director. Most of his films. Are there any of his films that you really...
Well, I know Spartacus, The Killers, and Killer's Kiss, or whatever those 2 black and white ones are called. I know all 3 of those he's sort of disowned. He's like, don't watch those. So I know especially Spartacus isn't really his style. It's still a very good movie, though, but he thought there was a lot of studio interference with that one. And I think he just thinks he had growing pains, as a director doing the 2 earlier ones. So those 2 might be bad. Who knows? But so far, he's doing pretty good.
Well, yeah, but it's too bad his last film was Eyes Wide Shut, because...
Oh, yeah. That one I'm on the fence about. There's some good parts about it, but yeah, it's... Yeah, it's not a classic, I would say.
No, I couldn't stand it. I know, like... And I hate to say that, but... Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but that movie was terrible. Okay, well... Next week it's part 2. It's my pick next week. So we will talk to you then. And thank you for watching Random Movie Time.